good, guys? It's Ilsun4K, and we're continuing on with Trick or Treat Week here with the second movie in the series called Trick or Treats. Yes, Trick or Treats, plural, spelt normally. This one was actually a little bit interesting to me because I actually found this on accident. Yeah, you ever find something that you didn't know you were looking for because you were looking for something else, and it turns out it's just as cool as what you thought it was going to be when you find it anyway? Like when you're getting trick-or-treat candy, and you know people are putting your favorite candy in there, and you always see them putting it in there, but later on when you're going through your bag, all of a sudden you find another candy that you forgot you even liked, or maybe even a new candy. Well, that's what happened when I did this. I was actually supposed to review Trick or Treat 1986, which I did my last review on, and of course Trick or Treat, which is the next review coming on Halloween tomorrow, and do that for Trick or Treat Week. However, all of a sudden, literally, I don't know, 2 weeks before I started writing this, I went looking for Trick or Treat 1986 to watch, and I came across this, Trick or Treats, from 1982. Now, what is this movie about? I guess the best way to put it is this. It's a Halloween spoof. And by Halloween, I don't mean like Halloween isn't like the month, I mean the movie. Yes, this is actually a Halloween movie about Halloween, making fun of it. It has everything in there. A family member sent to a mental asylum, people trying to get revenge, babysitting, serial killers killing the wrong people in some capacity. It's something that I found on accident, and I'm not gonna lie. It's also kind of 80s as fuck, but it's got this like 70s gloss on it because it's from 82 in the early 80s, and the 70s were still probably a little bit of an influence, like the style and stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about in the review. But speaking in the review, we should go and talk about the movie right now, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, this is Horrorween, and we're winding down on it, but it's still Horrorween, a month-long celebration of horror movies that take place on or around Halloween here on my channel, IllTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here. Alright, so I need you to bear this one thing in mind before I tell you the plot. This is a spoof movie, and it has some over-the-top, nonsensical, non-logical affairs being explained as it happens. But we gotta do respect, because if you think about it, this is a spoof movie that's spoofing the one genre, and that is horror, of course, that has some of the most illogical decision-making you've ever seen in film cinema. I mean, there are people that run upstairs and trap themselves, and people who go outside to hear noises that just don't value their lives, so we have to give the spoof movie credit for trying to find a way to take that and make it even more insane. I mean, quite honestly. Plot starts off pretty funny. It shows someone, much like in Halloween, the original one, getting taken to a mental asylum. Is it because they tried to kill someone or because they tried to hurt someone? No, it's because this guy's wife, Malcolm's wife, Joan, has decided she's had enough of her husband and convinces a doctor to come and have him taken away. They don't even evaluate the poor guy. They just come and sweep him off his feet. No drugs, no pills, no therapy. They just take him. It's fucking crazy. Gotta love spoof movie logic. Moving forward from there, Joan gets remarried, but still has her previous son from that marriage, Christopher. Joan and her new husband decide that they're going to go out for the evening, which is of course Halloween, and that they need a babysitter. So they hire Linda, a blonde younger woman much like Jamie Lee Curtis, to come and watch their son Christopher. Well, as it turns out, we cut to a scene of Malcolm, yes, the husband who's been locked away, in the insane asylum, actually talking to another individual about how he plans to escape the asylum, and the other individual happens to be an individual who actually is out of their mind and just smiles and laughs at everything he says. And when he finally breaks out, he decides he's going to go kill who? Joan. But is Joan at the house? No, because Joan is actually on a dinner date and Linda and Christopher are there. Now, cut back to Linda and Christopher is the most impossible child to babysit ever. He pulls terrible pranks on Linda, and I mean terrible pranks, such as faking that he cut off his finger, as well as drowning himself in a pool, and a bunch of other things you need to see to believe. We move forward from there as it shows Malcolm trying to get closer to the house to go find Joan, who has no idea she's not there, and he starts killing people on accident along the way that he thinks are Joan. And I mean, he kills a bunch of people and accidentally thinks it's them. It gets to the climax, of course, where Malcolm makes it to the house, and Linda and Christopher fight for their lives, and Linda actually kills Malcolm in a really funny way, so make sure you check that out, because I won't spoil it for you. And the whole film is just so over the top and zany that, I mean, that's really the plot. It's that quick to explain. What was that, all of 3 minutes? I mean, it's just that good. So, I guess I really gotta say that I don't know where to start with this film, because this film was kind of ahead of its time. a little bit of a trailblazer in its own way because it wasn't the first spoof film ever. I believe that was actually Clue, but it was the first spoof film for horror movies with slashers directly after the slasher boom of the 80s and also way after the sexploitation boom of the 70s. And that's the cool thing I really like about this film. It's got that 80s cheese, but it's got this 70s styling and gloss that I don't know. You got to see it just to see the aesthetic to get what I'm talking about because it's absolutely awesomely pulled off. I mean, I love it to death. The whole real crazy part about it is how well the spoofing is done. Like Laurie Strode, instead of Laurie, her name is Linda, and instead of just being like a pretty little blonde girl, she's like this like overly sexualized blonde girl wearing like tight white pajamas and jumping into pools. I mean, she's kind of like a push on the old sexploitation days in her own right, which is why, again, it's got this 70s gloss that I just can't explain. And I mean, you just got to really see it to appreciate it, is all I can really say. I think one of my favorite things about this film is the fact that we actually see the other side, the killer side of Malcolm, who's a crazy guy who's not really crazy inside of a psych ward, trying to break out so that way he can kill someone and then probably get declared crazy again and go back in, which is just, again, over the top. It's a very over-the-top film that has a lot of visual gags that I can't explain. It's got this, as I was saying before, 70s comedy style, like almost like a Monty Python, like over-the-top affair. And it's really just cheesy and corny, but you got to see it to appreciate it because it's its own thing. And I'm really glad I found this film like when I did because I almost missed this one for the second year in a row. So you got to check this film out. It's absolutely something you need to see just to believe it. A Halloween spoof. Like, who doesn't want to see that? So as you heard me say at the beginning of this review, I didn't mean to find this film. This film was the hidden gem that I found this year, and I always find one that was just too good to pass up reviewing, even though I found it a week before I started filming everything and had just about everything written. I had to rock with this. This movie really is like a precursor to the Scary Movie films, but don't get it twisted. This is nowhere near as good as Scary Movie. The Wayans brothers had something that was masterful and hilarious. This is pretty goddamn funny, but it's more of a so bad it's good kind of thing, and you really appreciate it for its artistry at the time, because you gotta figure, again, a spoof series about slasher films, when the sexploitation film kind of blew up in the late 70s, by the time this movie came out in 82, the slasher genre was already on its way up. We were on our third Halloween, we were on our second Nightmare on Elm Street, and we were definitely almost on our third Friday the 13th by the time this came out. So really, if you think about it, this movie was necessary to prove that genre of slasher and horror was relevant in pop culture again, and it wasn't just a passing fad from the 70s. Really, this film's existence was low-key. No one really cared about it, I'm sure, and it doesn't seem like they did when I looked up the reviews or the critics' reception or box office numbers, but the fact that it had to exist to show how relevant horror was makes this movie a special thing in its own way during the slasher film era and just for horror movies in general. I think it's really awesome that at this point in time a spoof like this was acceptable and actually something that people might have wanted to see just to get a quick laugh. I mean, I would have seen it. I know I went and saw a Scary Movie when I was a teenager, so I would be guilty of watching it as a teenager then. But really, you got to see this movie just to appreciate its uniqueness and the fact it was kind of a trailblazer for a series we would grow to come later. And don't forget, guys, it's Ill TV, where if it's pop culture, it pops up here. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel right now. Also, don't forget, catch me at 9 p.m. on twitch.tv/IllTV4K every Thursday night this month, streaming horror games, having the time of our lives in chat. Make sure you're there, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. It's IllSun4K. You're watching Ill TV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here.